Captain Lee Tejo stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the stars through the large viewing window. After 200 years of dreaming, humanity had finally built ships that could travel faster than light. Today was the day they would meet other life forms from across the galaxy. "Captain, we're getting a response to our broadcast," said Dr. Park So-young from her station. She was the ship's lead scientist and knew more about alien life than anyone else on Earth. "A ship is coming toward us. It's huge," Lee smiled. "Good. Open a channel and tell them we come in peace." The alien ship that appeared was unlike anything humans had ever imagined. It looked like a giant crystal flower floating in space, with soft blue lights dancing along its surface. It was 3 times bigger than any human ship. Commander Kim Jae-wook, the head of security, walked over to Lee. "Sir, their weapons are powered down. They seem friendly." Ambassador Yoon Da-eun joined them on the bridge. She had spent years preparing for this moment. "This is it, everyone. The day humanity joins the galaxy." A voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect English through some kind of translation device. "Greetings, beings of the third planet. I am Captain Morthane of the Galactic Federation ship Harmony's Light. We welcome you to the community of worlds." Lee felt his heart racing with excitement. "Captain Morthane, this is Captain Lee Tejo of Earth. We are honored to meet you. We would like to board your ship for proper first contact procedures if you allow it," Morthane said. "Of course. We'll prepare the docking bay." An hour later, Lee and his team waited in the docking bay as the alien shuttle arrived. When the door opened, they saw their first alien beings. The Velhari looked like tall, thin deer that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was silver and their large eyes seemed kind and peaceful. Captain Morthane stepped forward and bowed. "It is our honor to meet the people of Earth." "The honor is ours," Lee replied, bowing back. As they walked to the meeting room, Dr. Park asked, "How many worlds are in your federation?" 847 at last count," Morthane answered. "All peaceful worlds where different species live together in harmony." Ambassador Yoon's eyes lit up. "That sounds wonderful. We hope Earth can join this community." They sat around a large table. Morthane pulled out a small device that projected a hologram of the galaxy. "First, we must complete our survey of your world. This helps us understand what kind of planet you come from." "Earth is a beautiful world," Dr. Park said proudly. "We have oceans, mountains, forests, and deserts. The weather changes with the seasons, and we have many different animals." Morthane's assistant, a smaller Velhari named Kethral, began scanning the data from their ship's sensors. Suddenly, his large eyes went wide with fear. He started making clicking sounds in his own language. "What's wrong?" Lee asked. Morthane looked at his device and his face turned pale. "There must be some mistake. Our sensors show impossible readings." "What kind of readings?" Commander Kim asked. "Your planet. The computer says it's a Class 13 Deathworld, but that's impossible. Nothing can live on a Class 13 world." Dr. Park looked confused. "I don't understand. Earth is perfectly safe for us." Morthane stared at her. "Safe? Your planet has massive storms that move at speeds that would destroy our cities. Your ground shakes and splits apart. Your star sends out deadly radiation." "Oh, you mean earthquakes and hurricanes," Lee said with a laugh. "Yes, we get those sometimes. But they're not that bad." "Not that bad?" Kethral squeaked. "Your worst storms have winds faster than our emergency escape pods." Ambassador Yoon tried to explain. "Yes, Earth can be dangerous sometimes. But humans have learned to live with these things. We build strong houses and have warning systems." Morthane looked like he might faint. "You live through events that would be called natural disasters on any other world. How is this possible?" "Well, our ancestors had to be tough to survive," Dr. Park said. "Over millions of years, humans got stronger and smarter. We learned to work together and use tools." "Millions of years?" Morthane whispered. "On a Class 13 world?" Commander Kim noticed that the aliens looked scared. "Are you okay? You both look sick." "We need to contact the Federation Council immediately," Morthane said, standing up quickly. "This changes everything." "Changes what?" Lee asked. "In all our history, we have never found a world more dangerous than Class 12. Class 13 was just a theory. Scientists said nothing could evolve on such a world." "But we did evolve," Ambassador Yoon pointed out. "Yes," Morthane said slowly, "and that terrifies us." Dr. Park leaned forward. "Why should it terrify you? We're peaceful people. We want to be friends." "You don't understand," Kethral said, his voice shaking. "You are the first species we've met that evolved to survive the impossible. What does that make you?" The room went quiet. Lee felt the excitement of first contact turning into something else. "It makes us human," he said simply. "We must return to our ship," Morthane said. "The Council needs to know about this. All 800 worlds need to know." "Know what?" Commander Kim asked. "That's somewhere in the galaxy, on a world so dangerous it shouldn't exist. Nature created a species strong enough to call it home." As the aliens prepared to leave, Ambassador Yoon called out, "Will we see you again?" Morthane paused at the door. "I don't know. The Council will have to decide what to do about Earth, about all of you." After they left, Lee's team stood in silence. Finally, Dr. Park spoke. "I don't think that went the way we planned." "No," Lee agreed. "I think we just scared the most peaceful beings in the galaxy by simply existing." Commander Kim crossed his arms. "So what do we do now?" Ambassador Yoon looked out at the stars. "We wait, and we hope that being strong doesn't make us monsters in their eyes." Lee nodded. Humanity had reached for the stars hoping to find friends. Instead, they had discovered that their home world was so dangerous that its very existence challenged everything the galaxy thought they knew about life. The Soul's Pride continued its orbit around Earth, waiting for an answer from beings who had just learned that the impossible was not only possible, but had spent millions of years learning to fight, survive, and thrive. In the distance, the Harmony's light prepared for the fastest jump to Federation space in its history, carrying news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The Great Hall on Nexus Prime had never seen such a gathering. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy filled the circular chamber, their worried voices creating a buzz of sound that echoed off the crystal walls. High Counselor Zephyr, a tall being made of living light, called for silence. "Fellow beings," Zephyr's voice rang out, "we face a situation unlike any in our recorded history. The discovery of Earth has forced us to question everything we know about life in the universe." Captain Morthane stood at the center of the hall, still pale from his encounter with the humans. "Honored Council, I have spent 3 days reviewing our data. There is no mistake. Earth registers as a Class 13 Deathworld." A ripple of fear went through the crowd. Class 13 had always been theoretical, a classification so extreme that scientists used it to describe worlds where life was impossible. "Explain to us again what makes this world so dangerous," requested Counselor Velkan, whose species had evolved on one of the galaxy's most peaceful worlds. Morthane activated a holographic display of Earth. "Observe the storm systems. These hurricanes generate winds of over 300 kilometers per hour. On most of our worlds, such winds would strip away atmosphere." Gasps filled the chamber. The crystal beings called lithoids began vibrating with distress. "The planet's surface moves," Morthane continued. "Massive plates of rock shift and collide, creating mountains and destroying entire regions. They call these earthquakes and speak of them as normal events." "Normal?" squeaked Representative Physic, a small amphibian whose world had stable geology for millions of years. "The temperature variations alone should prevent complex life," Morthane said. "Their polar regions reach temperatures that would instantly freeze our life fluids, while their desert regions are hot enough to cook most known proteins." Dr. Lim Minho had been waiting quietly in the visitor section. As Earth's representative, he had been allowed to attend this emergency session. Now he stood and asked permission to speak. "Humans request permission to address the Council," Zephyr announced. Dr. Lim walked to the center, a tall man with kind eyes and graying hair. To him, the gathered aliens looked like a wonderful collection of different life forms. To them, he looked like something that shouldn't be able to exist. "Honored beings," Dr. Lim began. "I understand your concern, but I want you to know that Earth made us who we are. Yes, our world is dangerous, but danger taught us to be strong, smart, and to work together." "How do you survive the storms?" asked a butterfly-like being from the ethereal delegation. "We build strong shelters and predict when storms are coming. We've learned to work with our planet's weather patterns." "And the earthquakes?" This question came from a rock-like lithoid. "We design our buildings to bend instead of break. We study the movement of our planet and try to understand it." Counselor Timara, whose species resembled tall, graceful plants, leaned forward. "But surely such constant danger affected your development." "You must be a warrior species," Dr. Lim smiled. "We can fight when we need to, yes. But mostly we're explorers, artists, teachers, and builders. Earth taught us that life is precious because it's fragile." "We would like to see a demonstration," Zephyr said. We need to understand what Class 13 evolution produces. I brought someone who can show you, Dr. Lim said. He gestured to the door where Sergeant Cho Yun-ji entered. She was a young woman in simple clothes, with an easy smile and confident walk. This is Sergeant Cho. She's going to show you some basic human physical abilities. The aliens watched nervously as Cho moved to the center of the room. She began with simple stretches, touching her toes and rotating her arms. Several aliens gasped at her flexibility. Now I'll show you normal human exercise, Cho said cheerfully. She dropped to the floor and began doing push-ups. The first one caused 3 aliens to step backward. By the 10th, Representative Physic had fainted. When she stood up and began jogging in place, alarms on several aliens' life support systems started beeping. Her heart rate, whispered a medical drone from the Andromedan delegation. According to our sensors, she should be in cardiac arrest. Cho wasn't even breathing hard. Would you like to see me lift something? No, several aliens shouted at once. Dr. Lim helped Cho demonstrate human endurance by having her hold a 20-kilogram weight above her head. What seemed like a simple task to her registered as impossible strength to beings whose homeworlds had low gravity. How much can your species lift? Asked Counselor Velkan. Well, our strongest humans can lift over 500 kilograms, Dr. Lim said proudly. The sound that came from the alien representatives was like the cry of terrified birds. Are all humans this strong? Zephyr asked. Cho is a soldier, so she's stronger than average. But yes, most humans could do similar things. Even your children? The question came from Kethral, who had been quiet until now. Human children are smaller and weaker, of course, but a 10-year-old human could probably outrun most of your adults. Silence fell over the Great Hall. Finally, Counselor Tamara spoke. What you're describing? It sounds like your entire species consists of what we would call super soldiers. We don't think of ourselves that way, Dr. Lim said. We're just people who adapted to our world. But don't you see? Morthane said, his voice shaking. Your world created beings who are stronger, faster, and tougher than anything we've ever encountered. And you did it naturally. High Counselor Zephyr's light dimmed as he considered the situation. For 2,000 years, our Federation has been built on the principle that peaceful evolution creates the highest forms of life. We believed that violence and danger held back development. Maybe we were wrong, said Counselor Velkan quietly. Or maybe, Dr. Lim suggested, there are just different ways to evolve. Your worlds created beings of great wisdom and peace. Our world created beings who refuse to give up. The question now, Zephyr said, is what we do with this knowledge. Do we welcome Earth into our Federation? Or do we quarantine a species that evolved beyond our understanding? We're not dangerous to you, Dr. Lim said. We want to learn from you just as you might learn from us. But what happens when other species hear about humans? Asked Representative Physic, who had recovered from his fainting spell. What happens when they learn that Class 13 worlds don't create monsters? They create survivors. The Great Hall fell silent again. Every being present understood that this moment would change galactic history. Earth had proven that life could evolve under impossible conditions. But more than that, it had shown that such evolution could create beings of intelligence, compassion, and incredible capability. We need time to consider this, Zephyr announced. The Council will debate and vote on humanity's place in our galaxy. As the session ended, aliens filed out in worried groups, whispering among themselves. Dr. Lim and Sergeant Cho remained in the center of the hall. Did that go well? Cho asked. Dr. Lim looked around at the empty chamber. I think we just taught the galaxy that their definition of impossible might need some adjustment. Outside, in the corridors of Nexus Prime, the word was already spreading. Somewhere in the galaxy was a world so dangerous that it created beings who called catastrophes normal and turned survival into an art form. Ambassador Yoon Da-eun stood in the landing bay of Seoul Station, Earth's first orbital diplomatic facility. Today would begin the Great Cultural Exchange, an attempt by the Galactic Federation to understand humanity through direct interaction. She watched as the alien shuttle approached, its passengers brave enough to visit the Class 13 Deathworld. Remember, she called to her staff, these beings come from much safer worlds. Everything we consider normal might frighten them. The shuttle landed with unusual care. When the door opened, 6 aliens emerged wearing full environmental suits. Diplomat Veltar, an Andromedan whose species looked like graceful blue dolphins with arms, spoke through his suit's communication system. Greetings, Ambassador Yoon. We are ready to experience your world, though our safety equipment is necessary. Yoon tried not to feel hurt by this. Of course. We've prepared special viewing areas where you'll be safe. The first stop was the observation deck overlooking Earth. The aliens approached the window carefully, as if expecting something terrible to happen. What they saw made them step back in alarm. Those white spiral formations, Veltar said, pointing at clouds over the Pacific Ocean. Are those storm systems? Just normal weather clouds, Yoon explained. Sometimes they form pretty patterns. Normal? Squeaked Pipipe, a small furry being from Cordania. Those formations are larger than our biggest cities. Through the window, they could see a gentle, spring rain falling over Seoul. The aliens watched, it like they were observing an acid storm. The precipitation appears to be striking the ground with considerable force, noted Dr. Quintar, a scientist from the peaceful world of Lumina. It's just rain, Yoon said. People down there are probably enjoying it. Enjoying it? Veltar's translator struggled with the concept. They go outside during weather events? Meanwhile, on the alien world of Verdania, Professor Kang Hyunwoo was having his own difficulties. The planet was beautiful, rolling green hills under a gentle purple sky, with crystalline trees that sang in the breeze. But everything seemed incredibly fragile. Professor Kang tried to walk carefully, but his Earth-normal footsteps left deep prints in the soft ground. The local Verdanians, who looked like walking flowers, watched him nervously from a distance. Please forgive my heavy steps, Kang said to his guide, Bloomtel. I'm trying to be gentle. We understand, Earth friend, Bloomtel replied, though his petals quivered with each of Kang's movements. Your bone density is adapted for much stronger gravity. When Professor Kang tried to help by moving a fallen branch from a path, he accidentally snapped it in half. 3 Verdanians gasped and backed away. I'm so sorry, Kang said. I barely touched it. We know, Bloomtel said sadly. To you it was gentle. To us you have the strength of our industrial machines. Back on Seoul Station, the alien visitors faced their own challenges. Ambassador Yoon had arranged for them to meet human families via video call. The first family appeared on screen, a mother, father, and their 8-year-old daughter, Nara. Hello, Nara said brightly, waving at the aliens. I'm excited to meet you. The aliens stared at the small human in fascination and terror. Even as a child, Nara was taller and more robust than some adult alien species. What activities do you enjoy, young human? Asked Dr. Quintar carefully. I like climbing trees and playing soccer and swimming in the ocean, Nara said enthusiastically. Pippi nearly fainted. Swimming? In your planet's vast water bodies? With the current systems and temperature variations? It's fun, Nara laughed. Sometimes the waves are really big and they knock you down, but you just get back up. She speaks of ocean forces as entertainment, Veltar whispered to his colleagues. What are these beings? The conversation got worse when Nara's mother mentioned that they were planning a camping trip. We're going to sleep outside under the stars, the mother explained. Nara loves it when we camp in the mountains. Outside? Dr. Quintar's voice rose in pitch. Exposed to your planet's atmospheric conditions? Overnight? Of course, Nara's father said. Fresh air is good for you. And the mountains are beautiful. Mountains, Veltar repeated weakly. Geological formations created by violent tectonic activity. Daddy, tell them about when we saw the bear, Nara said excitedly. The aliens' environmental suits began beeping with stress alarms from their occupants. On Lumina, the paradise world, a similar scene was unfolding with tragic results. Nere's cousin, 10-year-old boy Minsu, was visiting with other human children. The Luminans had prepared special playground equipment for them, not understanding the scale of difference. Minsu approached a group of young Luminans who were struggling to move a small sphere, their version of a ball game. Being helpful, he reached over and picked up the sphere with one hand. The Luminan children scattered in terror. The sphere, which required 3 of them working together to lift, might as well have been weightless to Minsu. I just wanted to help, Minsu said, confused by their reaction. His human supervisor, Dr. Lee Soo-jin, quickly intervened. Put the ball down gently, Minsu. Remember, everything here is more delicate than on Earth. But the damage was done. Word spread quickly among the Luminan families that the human children possessed frightening strength. Parents began calling for their children to be kept away from the young predators. The breaking point came during a simple game of tag. Minsu, running at what he considered a gentle pace, accidentally knocked over two Luminan children simply by running past them. His body heat, normal for humans, triggered heat alarms on their temperature sensors. "We need to evacuate the human children," announced the Luminan safety coordinator. "They're too dangerous for our young ones." Back on Sol Station, news of the failed exchanges was reaching Ambassador Yoon. The aliens in the observation area had refused to remove their environmental suits after learning that humans routinely breathed air that would be considered toxic on their worlds. High oxygen content that would create fire hazards on many alien worlds. "Ambassador," Veltar said through his suit, "we need to return to our ships. This experiment has shown us too much." "Too much of what?" Yoon asked. "Too much about what your world creates," Dr. Quintar replied. "Even your children are beyond our understanding. They play in conditions that would kill us and speak of danger as if it were joy." Pipape, who had been quiet for some time, finally spoke. "You're not just strong in body. You're strong in spirit. You face the impossible and call it normal. We don't know how to understand beings like that." As the alien shuttle prepared to leave, Yoon felt the weight of failure. "Will you tell others about what you've seen?" "Yes," Veltar said sadly. "We must warn them. Not because you're evil, but because you're so far beyond us that we don't know if friendship is possible." The shuttle departed, leaving Yoon alone on the observation deck. Below her, Earth turned peacefully, unaware that its children had just been declared too dangerous for the galaxy's embrace. In the communication center, reports continued to arrive from the other exchange sites. Human visitors were being evacuated from alien worlds not for their own safety, but for the safety of their hosts. The great cultural exchange had ended before it truly began, leaving both sides more isolated than ever. Humans had learned they were stranger and more frightening than they ever imagined. The aliens had learned that somewhere in the universe, nature had created beings so adapted to survive that survival itself had become their superpower. Ambassador Yoon looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity would ever find its place among them, or if they were destined to remain alone, too strong for a galaxy built on gentleness, too dangerous for a universe that had forgotten what it meant to fight for life. The alarm screaming across Nexus Prime had never sounded so urgent. High Counselor Zephyr stood in the emergency command center, watching displays that showed destruction spreading across 3 star systems. The nightmare that had haunted galactic history for 2,000 years had returned. The Devourer swarm. "Status report," Zephyr demanded, his light form flickering with stress. Admiral Quextar, a distinguished ethereal with silver wings, gestured at the tactical display. The swarm appeared suddenly in the Kepler system. "Our deep space monitors show mechanical entities consuming everything, planets, stations, even the star's energy. They're adapting to every weapon we use against them." Captain Morthane, still serving as liaison to Earth, studied the readings with growing dread. The historical records were right. They learn from each attack and become immune to it. "How long before they reach inhabited systems?" asked Counselor Velkan. "At their current speed, 48 hours until they reach Cordania. 72 hours until they reach the core worlds." Zephyr dimmed further. The Galactic Federation had enjoyed peace for so long that their fleets were designed for exploration and minor conflicts. Their weapons were precise instruments meant to disable, not destroy. Their ships prioritized comfort and research facilities over armor and firepower. "What forces do we have available?" Zephyr asked. 17 exploration fleets, 12 diplomatic vessels, and 5 ceremonial guard squadrons. Admiral Quextar reported. "None designed for this level of conflict." Captain Morthane hesitated before speaking. "There is one option we haven't considered." "What option?" Zephyr asked, though he already suspected the answer. "The humans. They have ships and weapons designed for extreme conditions." The command center fell silent. Since the failed cultural exchange, Earth had been largely isolated from Federation contact. The humans had been polite but distant, building their own defenses and exploring space at their own pace. "You want to ask the Class 13 Deathworld species for help?" Admiral Quextar asked in disbelief. "They're the only ones who might understand how to fight something like this," Morthane replied. 2 hours later, Captain Baksu Jin received the emergency transmission on her ship, the Busan Defender. She was a compact woman with sharp eyes and the calm confidence of someone who had survived Earth's worst storms, and decided to take that experience to space. Captain Baek came, Morthane's voice over the communication link. The Federation requires immediate assistance. We face an enemy that threatens all galactic civilization. Tell me about this enemy, Baek replied, studying the data being transmitted to her ship. They're called the Devourer Swarm, ancient mechanical beings that consume matter and energy. They adapt to our weapons and tactics instantly. Engineer Oh Dong-hyuk, a tall man with grease-stained hands and a mind that saw solutions in chaos, looked over the specifications. Captain, these things remind me of something. What? Locusts. Or hurricanes. Natural disasters that just keep coming until they burn themselves out. Beck nodded slowly. And how do we deal with natural disasters on Earth? We don't try to reason with them. We either get out of the way or hit them with bigger disasters. Within 6 hours, the human fleet had assembled. Unlike the graceful, artistic ships of the Federation, human vessels looked like what they were. Tools built to survive the impossible. The Busan Defender led a squadron of ships designed to operate near black holes, survive solar flares, and withstand asteroid impacts. Engineer O worked frantically in the weapons bay, adapting human tools for space combat. If these things adapt to energy weapons, we need to think differently, he told his team. What are you thinking? Asked Weapons Officer Park Ji-hai. We're going to give them something to adapt to that they can't handle. We're going to hit them with the universe itself. The first engagement came at the edge of the Kepler system. Federation ships hung back as the human fleet moved forward to meet the swarm. The Devourer entities looked like dark geometric shapes that twisted space around them, each one the size of a small moon. Federation forces, this is Captain Bayek, she broadcast. Watch and learn how Earth fights. The human attack began unlike anything the Federation had ever seen. Instead of precise energy beams, the humans launched weapons that twisted gravity itself. Artificial black holes that lasted for seconds but pulled apart the swarm's geometric forms. O's gravitational disruptors were followed by stellar plasma cannons that fired actual pieces of stars, and kinetic missiles that moved so fast they warped space-time around them. They're using the laws of physics as weapons, Admiral Quextar whispered in amazement. But the swarm adapted quickly, just as the records warned. The Devourer entities began to resist the gravitational weapons and absorb the plasma attacks. A few human ships took damage and began to retreat. This isn't working, O reported. They're learning too fast. That's when Captain Bayek made a decision that horrified every Federation observer. All ships prepare for ramming speed. We're going to introduce them to good old-fashioned kinetic impact. Captain, came Admiral Quextar's panicked voice. Ramming is suicide. Not for us, Beck replied grimly. We're used to surviving the unsurvivable. The Busan Defender accelerated directly toward the largest Devourer entity. At the last second, Beck activated the ship's emergency systems, technologies designed to protect crews during collisions with space debris at high speeds. The impact was tremendous. The human ship smashed into the geometric entity like a hammer hitting glass. The Devourer entity, designed to adapt to energy and exotic matter, had no defense against simple, overwhelming physical force applied by beings who had learned to survive by refusing to break. Hull integrity at 60%, reported Engineering Officer Kim Hai-wan. But we're still operational. The Devourer entity wasn't. The impact had shattered its geometric form and left it spinning helplessly. How are you still alive? Admiral Quextar asked in amazement. Our ships are built to handle planetary-scale disasters, Beck explained as she pulled her damaged vessel away. A collision with one of these things is just another Tuesday for us. The tide of battle turned as human tactics proved their worth. Ships designed to survive solar storms shrugged off energy attacks that crippled Federation vessels. Crews trained for disaster response adapted faster than the swarm could learn. Engineer O's greatest innovation came when he weaponized Earth's most dangerous natural phenomena. His tectonic disruptors created artificial earthquakes in space, shaking the swarm entities apart at their molecular level. You're using your planet's disasters as battle tactics, Morthane observed in wonder. Earth taught us that if you can't avoid a disaster, You become the bigger disaster, O replied. The final assault came when Captain Bayek led a coordinated strike using what humans called storm tactics, chaotic, unpredictable attacks that mimicked the random fury of natural disasters. The swarm's adaptation systems couldn't keep up with strategies based on controlled chaos. As the last Devourer entities were destroyed or scattered, the Federation fleet moved in to survey the aftermath. They found human ships damaged but intact, crews tired but unbroken. How many casualties? Zephyr asked. 17 injuries, no deaths, Beck reported. Pretty standard for what we consider a rough day. Admiral Quextar stared at the tactical display showing the destroyed swarm. You faced an enemy that destroyed entire civilizations and you call it a rough day? Admiral, Captain Bayek said, when you've survived hurricanes, earthquakes, and ice ages, machine swarms are just another problem to solve. As the human fleet prepared to return to Earth, Engineer O transmitted his weapon designs to the Federation. In case they come back, he said simply. But everyone watching knew the real lesson wasn't about weapons or tactics. Earth's Class 13 status hadn't created monsters or warriors. It had created beings who looked at the impossible and saw just another challenge to overcome. The galaxy had spent eons avoiding danger, building civilization on safety and peace. But when true danger came, it was the children of Earth, forged by disasters and tempered by survival, who stepped forward to meet it. For the first time since humanity's discovery, the Federation began to understand that Class 13 wasn't a curse. It was preparation for moments exactly like this. 6 months after the Devourer War, President Ryu Ji-hoon stood before the reformed Galactic Council in what was once the Emergency Command, center of Nexus Prime. The chamber had been redesigned to include human-sized furniture and Earth-normal atmospheric conditions, small changes that marked a revolution in galactic thinking. Fellow beings of the galaxy, President Ryu began, his voice carrying to representatives from over 900 worlds. We gather today not as strangers divided by fear, but as partners united by survival. The assembled delegates were a mixture of original Federation species and newcomers, worlds that had requested contact after hearing about Earth's defense of the galaxy. Where once aliens had feared humanity's Class 13 origins, now they saw those origins as their shield against the unknown dangers of deep space. High Counselor Zephyr, his light form now steady and bright, spoke from the council platform. President Ryu, the Reformed Council is ready to hear your proposal for the Terran protection protocols. Thank you, Counselor, Ryu replied. For too long our species have been separated by misunderstanding. You saw our strength and feared it. We saw your peace and envied it. The Devourer War taught us that both are necessary. Fleet Admiral Shin Yu-jin, a woman whose calm presence commanded respect across species lines, activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. The universe is vast and largely unexplored. Our recent deep space surveys have identified 17 more Class 12 worlds and 3 potential Class 13 worlds. We're not alone in this galaxy, and not everything out there will be friendly. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The discovery of more death worlds had shocked many species. But it had also validated humanity's role as galactic protectors. The Terran protection protocols propose a new model of galactic civilization, President Ryu continued. Human forces will serve as the galaxy's first line of defense against external threats, while our Federation partners provide technological advancement, cultural wisdom, and scientific discovery. Representative Veltar from Andromeda, who had been one of the first aliens to visit Earth, raised a graceful appendage. President Ryu, many of our worlds have already requested human protection. How will you ensure fair distribution of your forces? The Human Defense Corps will operate on principles of need and partnership, Admiral Shin replied. Priority will be given to worlds that contribute to the common defense through research, resources, or strategic position. Dr. Park So-young, now director of the Galactic Xenobiology Institute, stepped forward. We've learned something important from studying both human and alien evolution. Diversity isn't just valuable, it's essential for survival. Each species brings unique capabilities. She gestured to a mixed group of beings near the front of the chamber. The ethereal's ability to process information quickly makes them perfect for early warning systems. The lithoid's mineral-based physiology allows them to work in environments that would kill other species. The Cordanians' empathic abilities help us understand and communicate with new life forms. And humans? Asked Counselor Timura from Verdania. Humans specialize in surviving what shouldn't be survivable, Dr. Park said simply. Every species has found their niche. Ours happens to be fighting the universe's worst disasters. The real test of the new order came when young Captain Nara, now 24 and commander of the exploration vessel Soul's Hope, addressed the council. The same girl who had once terrified alien families with her casual mentions of ocean swimming now represented the future of human-alien cooperation. Honored delegates, Nara began. I lead a mixed crew of humans and aliens exploring the galactic frontier. Last month, we encountered something that proves why we need each other. The holographic display changed to show a massive space structure, clearly artificial but unlike anything in Federation. Records, we found this near the Veil Nebula. It's an automated defense grid, probably millions of years old. Our human crew could survive the radiation and gravitational stress needed to approach it. But we couldn't understand its technology. She gestured to her crew members in the audience. Engineer Fluxara and Ethereal translated the ancient computer systems. Geologist Thorhan, a lithoid, analyzed the construction materials. Biologist Silwyn, a Cordanian, figured out it was designed by a species with empathic abilities. What did you discover? Zephyr asked. Evidence that this galaxy has faced external threats before. That ancient species built that grid to keep something out. Something that might still be out there. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Devourer swarm might have been just the beginning. Council member Han Bora, Earth's representative to the Reformed Federation, stood to address the assembly. This discovery changes everything. We're not just building a new galactic order. We're preparing for challenges our ancestors couldn't imagine. Which brings us to the final part of our proposal, President Ryu said. The Deep Space Exploration Initiative. Mixed human-alien crews will push beyond known space looking for threats before they find us. Admiral Shin displayed a map showing planned exploration routes. Human ships will handle the dangerous work, entering unknown systems, investigating anomalies, making first contact with potentially hostile species. Our alien partners will provide the scientific expertise to understand what we find. Representative Physic from Cordania, who had once fainted at a human exercise demonstration, now spoke with confidence. Our worlds volunteer to serve as research and logistics bases for these missions. We may not be able to face the dangers directly, but we can support those who do. The Ethereal Collective offers our computational abilities for processing exploration data, announced Counselor Kexton. Human courage combined with our analytical speed could prevent future crises. As the formal session ended, delegates began forming smaller groups to discuss implementation details. The sight had become common over the past months. Aliens who once feared human strength now worked alongside human engineers and strategists. Dr. Park found herself in conversation with Morthane, the Velhari captain who had made first contact with humanity. Do you ever regret discovering Earth? She asked. Morthane considered the question carefully. I was terrified when I first learned what your world had created. Now I'm grateful. The galaxy needed guardians and we were too peaceful to become them ourselves. You're not weak, Dr. Park assured him. You're wise. Wisdom and strength work better together than either does alone. As the day's sessions concluded, President Ryu stood once again before the assembly. 6 months ago, many of you saw humanity as a threat to galactic peace. Today, we work together to protect something greater than peace, the right of all species to grow and thrive without fear. The universe is vast and dangerous, he continued. It contains wonders beyond imagination and threats beyond our current understanding. But it also contains something new, a partnership between beings who learn to survive by avoiding danger and beings who learn to survive by facing it head-on. Young, Captain Nara stepped forward for the closing statement. To the species of this galaxy, I make this promise. Earth's children will stand watch at the edge of known space. We'll face whatever comes from the darkness between stars. And when we find new wonders, new life, new wisdom, new beauty, we'll share them with all of you. Because that's what Earth really taught us, she concluded. Not just how to survive, but why survival matters. Life is precious not because it's easy, but because it refuses to give up. As the Reformed Galactic Council adjourned, Ships from 100 worlds prepared to carry the news across the galaxy. The age of peaceful isolation was ending. The age of cooperative exploration was beginning. Somewhere in the depths of space, automated monitoring stations established by the Human Defense Corps watched for threats that might emerge from the cosmic dark. And on countless worlds, species that had once feared Earth's Deathworld children now slept peacefully, knowing that the universe's most dangerous survivors were standing guard. The galaxy had learned that Class 13 didn't create monsters. It created protectors. And in a universe full of unknowns, protection was exactly what civilization needed. Earth's children had found their place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of all who chose to reach for the impossible and call it home.